Chodesh Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Nedarim. We are up to Perek Zayin, Mishnah Aleph. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbai, Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov, and Chana bad Miriam, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen. And Avdir ben Chaim Lechaim, V'derefua Shenemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, Betoch Shah Chulei Israel. Like the previous chapter, this one also lists a number of Nedarim and defines what is prohibited by each one. Like we explained over there, the general principle is that the definition of a term used in a neder is based on how the term is commonly used by people. The Mishnah begins, "Anoder min hayarak mutar badelu'in." Someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating vegetables is permitted to eat gourds, because people use the term vegetables only to refer to vegetables that are eaten raw, whereas gourds are edible only when cooked. The Rabbi Akiva oser. However, Rabbi Akiva forbids him to eat gourds because in his opinion, vegetables can include gourds. Now the Gemara explains that the Mishnah cannot be referring to one who simply said vegetables. In that case, all would agree that gourds are permitted because in popular usage, the word vegetables does not include gourds. Rather, the Mishnah's case is where the person said vegetables that are cooked in a pot. Rabbi Akiva rules that by adding that are cooked in a pot, the person includes gourds, which are not edible until they are cooked. According to the sages, however, gourds are permitted even in this case because they hold that gourds are never called vegetables. Now, the first Tana and Rabbi Akiva cite proofs to their opinions. Amrulo le Rabbi Akiva, the sages said to Rabbi Akiva, "Valo omer adam lishlucho kach liyarak." But if a man says to his messenger, "Buy vegetables for me," and the messenger goes to the market and finds only gourds, he would not buy them. Rather, he would return and say, "I found only gourds. Shall I buy them for you?" Since he would not simply buy the gourds that are available, but would come back to get the sender's approval, it's evident that when people say vegetables, they do not include gourds. Now, Rabbi Akiva responded to the sages. Amar le, he said to them, "Ken hadavar, it is true. The messenger would indeed return to get the sender's approval to buy the gourds. However, that's a proof to my opinion. Let us say that the messenger found only legumes, just dry beans and peas. Would he possibly return and say to the sender, "I found only legumes. Shall I buy them for you?" Of course not. He would not ask the sender about legumes because the term vegetables never refers to legumes. Now, if gourds are also not called vegetables, as you, the sages, hold, why would he ask about gourds? Rather, we must say that gourds are included in the term vegetables. The kidniyot enan b'chlal yarak, and legumes are not included in the term vegetables. Therefore, neder, according to Rabbi Akiva, that mentions vegetables forbids gourds as well. And in fact, gourds are included only if the neder stated vegetables that are cooked in a pot, like we explained earlier. The story shows that the word vegetables does not necessarily exclude gourds. So the addition of that are cooked in a pot includes them. But the Rav does tell us, the halakha follows the opinion of the sages, that someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating vegetables is permitted to eat gourds. Another law concerning someone who prohibited himself to eat vegetables. Now the following law is agreed upon by both the sages and Rabbi Akiva. And he is forbidden to eat moist, meaning fresh Egyptian beans. Mutar be'avesh, but he is permitted dried ones, because fresh Egyptian beans are commonly called vegetables, while dried ones are not. Now, although legumes such as peas and beans are not considered to be vegetables, like the Mishnah itself said earlier, in popular usage, the word vegetables does include fresh Egyptian beans. And that is the end of Mishnah Aleph. Mishnah Bet continues. Now, there are two Hebrew words for grain, dagan and tivuah. The Mishnah teaches what is included in a neder that uses either of these terms. Hanodar min dagan asur b'pol hamitzri yavesh. Someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating dagan is forbidden to eat dried Egyptian beans in addition to regular grain, because these beans are also commonly called dagan. Now, the word dagan generally refers to grain. The name comes from the piles or dagans in which the grains are stored after they harvest. According to Rabbi Meir, we're going to see it says Divrei Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, since dried Egyptian beans are also stored in this way, this word includes them as well. Now, actually, the commentators explain any type of food that is stored in piles is forbidden by the neder according to Rabbi Meir, as he later states in the Mishnah. Rabbi Meir mentions only dried Egyptian beans here to emphasize that although fresh Egyptian beans are called vegetables, as taught in the end of the previous Mishnah. Dried ones are called dagan. So again, hanodar min dagan asur bepol hamitzri yavesh divrei Rabbi Meir. Someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating dagan is forbidden to eat dried Egyptian beans in addition to regular grain, because these beans are also commonly called dagan. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages say, eno asur ela b'chameshet aminin. He is forbidden only to eat the 5 species of grain: wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye. Now, in the language of the Torah, the word dagan refers to only these 5 species, and the sages hold that the same is true in popular usage as well. More rulings by Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, "Anodar min hatvua eno asur ela mechameshet aminin." Someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating tvua is forbidden only the 5 species. Aval noder min hadagan asur bakol. However, someone who makes a neder prohibiting himself from eating dagan is forbidden to eat any kind of food that is stored in piles, including the dried Egyptian beans that we mentioned earlier. The sages disagree with Rabbi Meir on this point, like the Mishnah said earlier. Umutar beperot hailan ubayarak, but he is permitted to eat the fruits of a tree and vegetables which are not stored in piles. Now, the sages certainly agree with this last point, because in their opinion, dagan refers only to the 5 species of grain. And the Rav does tell us, Rabbi Meir, that Achat does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Meir. That is Rabotai after these Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Chodesh Tov and Mevorach. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.